they hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Segueing into the Olympics, have you seen what's going on? The massive scandal.
Yes, they exposed the Mickey Conlon thing.
Yeah,
exactly. Which we all knew. I mean, Mickey Conlon was totally justified in flipping off the judges and making a big scene. He got robbed, just like many other Olympians. The IOC, and the way it's dealt with the corruption in the boxing of the Olympics is disgusting. Like, I have no faith in the Olympic system really anymore. In the States, the general consensus is that no matter how talented you are, if you aren't connected politically with the right people, there's no point in even stressing trying to go to the Olympics.
Exactly, and Teddy Atlas is a huge advocate for the problem in this sport with AIBA, who have been paid off to give out gold medals. You know, he was commentating on an Azerbaijan fight. I forgot which other country they were fighting against, but the fighter from Azerbaijan got knocked down like 6 times, and the referee just helped him up and didn't count it as a knockdown, and he clearly lost the fight. But their government paid money because they wanted guaranteed gold medals, and it's unbelievable. It's proven right now. There's a huge investigation going on with the Olympics and AIBA, and I even saw something even crazier than that. Is that if you're an amateur fighter, you could get paid, blurring the line even more between professional boxing and amateur boxing, because you can now get paid up to $100,000 to win the finals of the AIBA tournaments.
Holy smokes. I didn't know.
I mean, how ridiculous is that?
I did hear like the governments out there in like Eastern Europe and some of those other countries do kind of pay their amateur competitors or through sponsorships or something, or I don't know how that works, but they definitely... It's
corruption, essentially.
Yeah.
It's just them wanting to look good politically, and, you know, sport is a way of doing that.
So does that have any implications for changing decisions or something going forward? I didn't look too much into it. We all knew Colin got robbed. I remember that. But I'm like, what happens now?
I think you might see people getting a lot of trouble in this sport. I think it's about time. You know, it's been happening for years. The corruption in this sport needs to go. We've got lots of wrong players at the top of the game. You know, I just think it's a lot of corruption, dirty money. It needs to go. I've had enough of it because it's causing a lot of issues.
We've all had enough of it. Trust me, I would love for it to be gone. I would love for the Olympics to have the prestige that it used to have, because it just doesn't. In America, especially, it doesn't really, with the amateur circuit. Pretty much most of the amateur circuit already knows here in the States that, like, the Olympics, unless you're severely well connected, there's no point. That was like, you know, Chris Colbert and Shakur Stevenson. When they were both coming up, they were both like the national top guys in their weight division. And Chris Colbert said he didn't even want to try to get in the Olympics because he knew that Shakur Stevenson was the guy that they had pretty much preordained as America's representative that year when he was in the Olympics. And that's kind of really what the tone is if you don't have people and connections all the way up USA Boxing, then no matter how talented you are, there's no point in even having an Olympic dream. And that can't be good for the sport. That can't be good for the sport.
AIBA are a very corrupt organization, obviously. I mean, there's an investigation going on now that they accepted, I think, in the 6-figure range from a country, and they denied it. I think it might have been $10 million, in fact. Forget 6 figures, 7 figures.
Oh, my
A $10 million bribe, essentially. I forgot who it was from. I think it might have been.
So heads are going to roll for this then. I assume they're going to file charges.
The Guardian are all over it. I think that a lot of people could be put in jail for this situation.
Good. Lock them all up.
Yeah,
these young men and women, these are young men and women's dreams that they're just destroying.
It's such a weird thing as well because, it's the Olympics. It's like an amateur tournament. In professional boxing, it makes a lot more sense. There are stakes, but this is just pure. It's just wrong on so many levels. It doesn't even make that much sense to me, to be honest.
I think it's just the prestige that comes with having that gold medal and the doors it can open up for being a medalist in the Olympics at the professional level. Not all the time, but sometimes having a gold medal or even a silver medal can open up amazing amounts of doors for you. But I know other countries have much more developed amateur systems, and especially out there in Europe, it's definitely a lot more developed. In Eastern Europe, those guys, they'll be in their 30s fighting as amateurs because they're making so much money in sponsorships and traveling. And I don't know how they make money, but I know that they stay amateurs for forever because it's lucrative for them.
Well, it's not really lucrative. It's kind of more of an honor with a lot of these Eastern European countries. And obviously with Cuba, for example, of course, not in Eastern Europe, but Cuba stayed in the amateurs because you couldn't even go professional under Fidel Castro. So they've got this amazing amateur circuit, and nearly all the men there become amateur boxers. They get put in these camps, and it's phenomenal, but they can't go professional. So Luis Ortiz, for example, he can't go back to Cuba because he became professional in Florida.
Yep. Yeah, when they go professional, they end up leaving the country. That's why they don't want anybody to go professional, because they know they're going to expatriate out of there.
Yeah, no. Have you got are there any other topics we need to cover?
Not as far as I know. Manny Pacquiao officially, retired, which we all knew already was going to happen, but that was a little bittersweet, I'm not going to lie, because I thought maybe there was still that shred of hope that, like, maybe he'll, fight if he loses the presidency or even becomes president. Imagine a president fighting a professional boxing match. Oh, okay. Where do you think Manny Pacquiao places? Is he on GOAT Mountain? Is he up there with the GOATs?
Yeah, 200%. I mean, that's not even for me, that's not really a question, I think
Awesome.
he's definitely up there, pound for pound, one of the greats.
It's so weird to me that he has critics. Like, I can't even fathom it. And I think, I'm a Floyd supporter. I like Floyd, but I do believe it's like a contingency of like obsessive Floyd fans that wanted to deny Manny Pacquiao's greatness. I'm like, yo, like, y'all need to calm down. Like,
yeah, that
guys,
I have I really, Floyd's one of my favorite fighters of all time, but some of the statements he has said in the past are too based on his record. And yeah, it's a big, very divided topic at the moment with Floyd, because the 50-0 thing, but did he cherry pick the times he fought them? Did he fight the best when they were at their best?
It's odd to think that their legacies are going to be. I hate to use the word cherry pick because I feel like I sound like a Floyd hater. He was very intelligent in selecting the fighters when they weren't at their most dangerous. I guess that's the nice way of saying cherry picking. And he never left Vegas. So in terms of like greatness and pushing boxing to new heights, Manny Pacquiao fought all over the world. He would take fights on short notice. He was fighting the most dangerous guys at their peak. It's like, it's really, for me, it's like, it's a no-brainer, but obviously he didn't make the kind of money that Floyd did. He didn't have the undefeated record that Floyd did. He wasn't the marketing machine that Floyd was. But then look at the impact afterwards. Like, you've got people who follow the Manny Pacquiao school of ideology where take them all on, I don't care who. Then you have other people that have these zeros but have the most softest resume, softest baby poop. So it's like, I don't know.
It's hard to argue. Floyd definitely doesn't have a soft resume whatsoever. 26.
No. He doesn't have a soft resume. The guys.
No. I know. You're not saying that.
That want to be Floyd, that didn't pay the pretty boy Floyd dues. That's the frustrating part. So now we have a bunch of fighters in the game. A bunch of them are undefeated, but they all have garbage records. Not garbage records. Garbage competition. So like, how can you brag about being undefeated when you've never really faced anyone of significant consequence? Floyd's undeniable, but he did get Pacquiao old after he got knocked out. He did get Cotto after Cotto had some years on it, but you can't deny that Floyd was dominating everyone into his late 30s. Like, that's ridiculous what he was doing. Like,
Floyd was older than Pacquiao, so I don't have that. That one I'm not too much with people.
No, he beat Pac-Man fair and square. And Pac-Man was my idol growing up, but I'm not emotionally into it like that. He beat my guy. And
I have another question.
Fight. Yeah.
I have another question for you. Do you think Floyd unofficially lost any fights? You mentioned Vegas and that he had the home turf advantage.
No. I think he should have got a draw against De La Hoya, but that's it. And I'm not going to argue the De La Hoya one, but he threw the more effective counterpunching, but De La Hoya threw the more volume. And if I'm not mistaken, he might have even landed more, and he controlled the center of the ring. But regardless, I can see how the judges would have scored it in Floyd's favor. I think the De La Hoya fight should have been a draw. But other than that, I don't think he lost the Castillo fight.
You don't think he lost Castillo fight? I was what I was really talking about, to be honest.
No, I don't. I've watched it. I've watched that fight at least 6 or 7 times, front to back, and I can see why people think Castillo should have won. But I think Floyd got that one. I think he did.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, carry on.
Go ahead. It just
No.
Floyd had the effective defense. Castillo was the aggressor, and Floyd was kind of staying out of. He was on the bike a little bit, but he still landed cleaner shots. And I've never seen the Castillo fight in favor of Castillo, and that's gonna piss off a lot of people.
Yeah, with the De La Hoya fight, what's interesting was that Floyd was the B-side at that time. So with the Vegas, there was no advantage for Floyd there because, this was the golden boy at the time. This was Top Rank's biggest pay-per-view star, and Floyd was still pretty boy. He was just becoming Money May.
Oh yeah. De La Hoya helped birth the pay-per-view star that Mayweather became, just like he did for Manny Pacquiao. That's how huge Oscar De La Hoya was, relatively speaking. And Oscar De La Hoya was a much bigger guy physically, but they gave the decision to Mayweather, and it is history. I didn't see any fight where it looked like Mayweather was losing. At the very end of his career, it was a little frustrating because he was a little older. His hands were brittle, so we didn't have any chance to really. You need that visceral feeling of somebody possibly getting knocked out for me to be really entertained with a fight. And he lost that about the last 5 to 7 years of his career. It was like, you're going to watch the Floyd fight, but you already know what you're going to get. You're going to get a very intelligent point fighter. And
yeah,
I'm not the biggest fan. I want to see. I'm not just a bloodlusting casual, but I definitely want to at least feel the danger in it. You knew Floyd wasn't going to knock nobody out.
Yeah, but I appreciate the art, and you're not going to get many people who will appreciate it because it's boring to appreciate art sometimes for people that just want to see some blood and see a knockout. They're not really interested in the intricacies behind the fight and the defensive genius of Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, Floyd was pure art. Floyd was pure art. Oh, it's beautiful. He'll stand dead in your face and you can't touch him. I mean, how much more beautiful does it get? His timing and his counters, even as he got older and he was a faded version of him, was still dominant because he understood the fundamentals of footwork and defense. And I take nothing away from Floyd. Manny was still my dude because Manny was ending careers. Even towards the end with Lucas Matisse, he was still ending careers. But yeah, I'm not going to deny Floyd. And no, I didn't definitively see Floyd lose any of his fights. But he stayed in Vegas, and he didn't want to spread the gospel of boxing internationally the same way Manny did. Manny fought in everywhere, like on short notice. But I'm also Filipino, so like you're talking to somebody like there was no representation as far as Asian masculinity, aside from like Bruce Lee. Like we just recently got Crazy Rich Asians, so. Coming up in the late 90s, early 2000s, growing up as a young man, to have Manny Pacquiao represent, it made a difference in my life. I was always a scrappy one. It didn't matter because I lived in a Mexican neighborhood. And it was like, whatever, I can beat him up. And a lot of it was based on me being Asian. It was like, there's Asians ain't, I'm telling you, in American culture, I don't know what's going on across the pond, but I'll tell you, in American culture, they take shots at Asian masculinity any chance they get, even if you are a masculine dude. After Manny came in the game, people in my neighborhood were like, "Yo, Jeff's scrappy, but he's Filipino, so I wouldn't mess with him because he might be dangerous because of Manny." And that's crazy to have somebody's life directly affected by a fighter's existence. So it directly affected. I got into less fights because everyone actually respected the fact that Filipinos had warrior blood in them. That's all Manny. So he changed the world's perception of Filipinos and Asian fighters. So I got to give him that.
That's a really cool story, actually, but yeah, no, taking a complete turn from that was really cool. Across the pond here in the UK, you don't really see that, and obviously I'm quite a bit younger, so I haven't personally witnessed that, but I'm sure it exists.
Also, America has its interesting issues with race dynamics, which are world famous. We love our issues with race here. It's absurd. It's absurd. I love everybody, and but I watch it on TV and it's so strange. Even online on comment sections and videos that are posted on whatever platform you see, like an American media, it's like this invisible jail that all of our minds are in here to keep us all separated. Like, oh, we're so vastly different.
It's very different. I don't want to. I don't want to get too much into that unless we do a politics podcast and culture. But
back to boxing.
Back to boxing. But I do. No. I appreciate that story a lot. The Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano fight is being organized partially by Jake Paul and Eddie Hearn. I thought that was hilarious. That Jake Paul is part of the.
He's promoting her and managing her.
He is managing her career because if you didn't know, he gave her a $500,000 bonus for her fight on his card, which I think very admirable. As much you want to hate, people want to hate Jake Paul. Can't argue the facts. He's given her the biggest payday of her career.
Biggest payday in women's boxing history, and Clarissa Shields had some very strong thoughts on that. I was a little hurt, but I love Clarissa Shields. My heart hurts for Clarissa Shields because I feel like she should be a much bigger product. I think she's the GOAT. No knock to Katie Taylor, but the woman is a two-time Olympic gold medalist, like a 2 or 3 division boxing champion, undisputed. She's now wrecking shop in MMA. This is how much noise Clarissa Shields has to make to get recognition from the boxing world, and it's almost appalling because she should be a household name.
She should be, and but
she was,
it's sad. It is sad, but
she was very upset at the Jake. She doesn't like Jake Paul. Clearly, she was like, I could beat up Jake Paul, and she was very dismissive of Amanda Serrano getting that big paycheck. And I was like, come on, Clarissa, you got no.
I think she's in the wrong for that. That's a very jealous perspective on her part. I don't want to disrespect her in any way, but she should be happy for our fellow fighters making those paydays because at the end of the day, it will only be good for her. Because if she is the best, it will just raise the profile of women's boxing more. Because we're talking about it now. So it indirectly affects her. She should probably open her eyes up a bit to that side of it. But I did want to ask you a prediction on that fight. Who do you think wins?
Woo! Okay. I think Amanda Serrano beats her up. I think Amanda is the straight up boogeyman and
boogie woman.
Yeah, the boogie woman.
I'm joking. Yeah.
Touché. She is the boogie woman of those 2-3 divisions that she floats and hovers around, which one of those divisions is Katie Taylor's division and Michaela Mayer and all them. And I think Amanda Serrano is the truth. And I think Katie Taylor has some reservations, and I don't even know if that fight actually happens. They've been talking about that fight now that Amanda Serrano has raised her profile, and I hope it does happen. And I think
it will happen.
I think Amanda Serrano, I think she drops Katie Taylor.
It's the only fight they have, really. It's they'll make that fight happen. I think Eddie Hearn has a really good plan for women's boxing. These tournaments that he's putting on, almost like the World Boxing Super Series, but his own version.
Eddie is ahead of the curve on that one. I got to give it up to him. As far as female boxing, women's boxing, he is pushing that, and that's super cool. It needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie's doing a great job of that. I think there's no.
So you think Amanda beats Katie also?
Amanda Serrano will beat Katie Taylor. Yeah, I think so. I think that Katie Taylor won't have the judges on her side either, because I think the fight will take place in America, and I actually think it could be a stoppage in the later rounds.
I think so. Amanda's body work is second to none, and they just drop like flies, like 31 knockouts. It's insane. The woman, her body work is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But
yeah, that's a brilliant fight. I really can't wait for that one.
I'm eager to see that. It's a women's main card super fight, and boxing has needed that one. We need to see that because I feel like that one would sell pay-per-views. I don't know if it would sell 1 million pay-per-views, but it would sell a lot. I think it would definitely sell out Madison Square Garden. You would get the Irish contingency. You would get the Puerto Rican contingency. Big presence in New York City. I'm all for it.
Oh, I really want to talk about that as well. Puerto Rican boxing. So Bob Arum believes that Edgar Balanga could beat Canelo Alvarez in 1.5 to 2 years. What's your thought?
I don't see it. Not yet. I need to see more from Berlanga. He's such a raw product. Like, and that's no knock on Berlanga. The kid's mega talented, clearly has a lot of power, but I don't see the mechanics there yet. So far he's just kind of a rough brute. But
Why isn't he? This is my question, really. Why aren't the guys that really think they're going to beat Canelo fighting each other? That is my biggest concern with that division. They're all
elephant. That's the elephant in the living room. We all want to know the answer to that.
No, but Benavidez saying he could beat Canelo Alvarez with such limited experience, Ronald Ellis being his last fight. I don't see how it's possible. Someone like Benavidez should be fighting Edgar Balanga or Jamal Charlo, or Bubu Andrade. These names, these guys, they're almost just waiting around for that Canelo payday, which they're probably not going to get anytime soon because they're not proving themselves.
They want that payday. That's it. This is the Mayweather effect. Everyone's preciously holding onto their zeros in hopes to get that one big lottery fight. And this is the disease. This is the disease that is destroying American boxing. And like I said, it's going to take a generation or two for us to get out of it. But they all need to fight each other. I've been saying this the whole time. They need to fight each other and get over it.
The promoters are the big issue, in my opinion. They can't find a way to work together. They're so greedy. And what they're not realizing is they're slowly killing their own businesses. If they just put on those fights, some of these guys lose, but they just keep fighting each other. People will just be enticed by the action in the fights. They don't care who wins or loses. The more it happens, the more people will just get used to the losses because it needs to happen. At the end of the day, someone's O has got to go, and who cares who it is? I just want to see good fights. I don't know why they don't realize. As fans, I'm not going to hold a grudge against someone that's got a fucking zero. It's so stupid.
I agree. You're preaching to the choir on that one. I don't care about the zero. Do you bring your heart? Do you bring it? Do you put it all out there for us to see? That's all I care about. I just want to see some good scraps from some high-level elite boxers. And simple as that. I'm not that picky. But yes. Benavidez beats everybody not named Canelo. I think he's that gifted. But yes, even with I believe his skill set is just nasty. And I wouldn't say it's just a total domination. I think he would beat Jamal, but it would be an excellent fight. And I wouldn't put it past Jamal to get the win either. But I would put it 70-30 in favor of David Benavidez.
Yeah, especially after the Castano fight.
Yeah.
That was Jamal. Sorry, not.
Oh no, the other guy. I remember. I forgot his name.
Not Castano. That was Jamal Charlo. Who was it? Montiel. Juan
Macias Montiel. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, with Jamal Charlo's performance against Montiel, I just don't see him beating an in-shape Benavidez, a sharp Benavidez. Can't see it.
Yeah, so hopefully they all fight each other. Otherwise, they're just going to be waiting for that Canelo payday, and who knows? I think Canelo might get that undisputed. Maybe he cleans shop in super middleweight. I think he's going to move up to light heavyweight just to keep challenging himself. Otherwise, how do you stay inspired as a fighter if you're not seeing challenges? Because I don't see what Benavidez or Jamal Charlo can do to Canelo. I don't see it.
But here's my problem there is that even in the light heavyweight division, you've got Dmitry Bivol, Babatiev and whatnot, but they actually haven't had that many fights. So I just think experience is the biggest advantage for Canelo there. And I don't think the size will be a big factor for him because he punches like a light heavyweight. Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't think these guys can, except Babatiev, I'd lean towards beating Canelo a bit more than, say, Bivol. But I still think Canelo could beat them both.
Interesting.
And who else is there in that division,
Joe Smith Jr.
Joe Smith Jr. Let's be honest. I like the guy, and I think he would be a good fight for Callum Smith. Smith Jr. doesn't put a dent in Canelo.
Maybe,
not to be disrespectful or anything like that. I just don't. This is just my personal opinion.
A lot of people have written him off, and it is what.
I don't think he'll beat someone like Canelo. He doesn't have the resume to justify.
None of them have the resume. Better be
exactly.
None of them do.
Exactly.
Realistically, but he has thunder in his right hand. That's like Deontay Wilder. He has that right hand, and you can never dismiss that right hand. I mean, it's the eraser for all your sins. When you have that kind of power, that's why it's so fascinating. Whenever you see guys who have cannons for their hands, you can never discount the possibility of that shot landing.
So, what is next for Conor Benn?
Amir Khan. Amir Khan said he doesn't want that fight. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities at welterweight. It's murderer's row right there. So,
arguably the best division right now.
Yes, at the moment it's looking like it. I don't know who Conor Benn faces next. I don't think he's ready for like a Virgil Ortiz just yet, but I don't know if he's ready for the top guys just yet, because he definitely showed that he's got some holes in his game when he was facing a highly moving guy like Vargas in his last fight. But I'm all for Conor Benn, man. I think he's an awesome talent to watch. I don't know what's next for him. I don't know.
So Eddie Hearn wants that Adrian Broner fight.
Yeah, I was gonna say Adrian Broner. That'd be a great fight. I think Conor Benn would have a very good chance at beating AB. And I don't know if AB takes that fight. Maybe he does, because I think it'd be a big money fight for both of them.
Yeah, it's interesting.
If they did it over there in Britain. You know, if he's
yeah,
willing to go that far.
I think Broner's the A side still, just because of his name and his his brand awareness there. But yeah, I think that's a brilliant fight for Conor Benn. But obviously Broner's a bit washed up, so I don't think Benn wants to really start creating this habit of beating fighters who are past their sell-by date. I think the Virgil Ortiz Jr. fight is a mega fight if Conor Benn continues to win. I think a Kell Brook fight would be good. Amir Khan doesn't want that smoke.
Kell Brook would be an awesome fight. I think Kell Brook would be a good fight, but I think if you're going to mention kind of being washed up, AB and Kell Brook are roughly in that same boat of like, is it done for them?
So do you think that Florian Marku comes into that equation? I'm not sure if you're aware of him.
Oh, Florian Marku's dope. That'd be a great fight for him. I like that fight. Florian Marku moves really well, and he can switch southpaw to orthodox. That's an interesting wild card in that division. That'd be a good fight for Conor Benn. I think that'd be a good fight for Conor Benn.
Florian Marku's a former MMA fighter, if you didn't know.
And kickboxer, as far as I know. Yeah, but he's definitely got a nice skill set. He's real relaxed. I think he doesn't have as much pop on his punches as he should have, but he makes up for it with great technique. He really reminds me of like an Eastern European version of Terrence Crawford slightly, with his ability to switch hit, which is kind of cool. That'd be a cool fight.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the Florian Marku fight is like a huge O2 fight over here in the UK. He's got one of the biggest fan bases you've ever seen. He's got the whole of Albania behind him.
Yeah, I saw the Albanian contingency in the crowd at that Anthony Joshua fight. Like they were there pretty deep. They represented.
He won the IBF international title, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Intercontinental or international, one of those titles.
Intercontinental, yeah, intercontinental. You're right.
Yeah,
which is interesting because arguably he should be fighting Conor Benn because they're both at that intercontinental level.
Are there talks about them two fighting each other?
There were really long talks about it with Matchroom, because they're both Matchroom fighters. And I think they're going to wait it out a bit. I think Conor Benn doesn't believe that Florian Marku even deserves the chance, because he's moving up to more. He's really trying to go for that world title sort of status. And Florian Marku is quite, he's quite behind him in terms of quantity of fights. So I think that fight will take time to make. But the more Conor Benn continues to win, the less likely that fight is to happen, because Florian Marku will have a lot of catching up to do. He'll have to be fighting, 4 to 5 times a year for that fight to happen anytime soon. And he's not that young. He's 27, 28, and he's only had a handful of fights. So it'll be difficult to make that.
Well, interesting thought there. I never thought to cross my mind with Florian Marku and Conor Benn. I don't know what's next for Conor Benn, but I'm on the Conor Benn bandwagon. I like Conor Benn. I wasn't sure about him at first, but now I'm like, I like this guy. Yeah, I like Conor Benn. He's balls to the wall with it. He'll stick his chin out there to try to get a knockout, and I respect that, because at least he's willing to make it exciting. He got that from his dad. His dad was that same way. Nigel Benn was the same way. He's taking those chances to knock you the hell out, and I like that.
Yeah, with the Granados fight, Granados was really on his bicycle the whole time. It was a bit boring, that fight in Leeds. But I think that given the right opponent, someone like a Sean Porter, in the later future, near future even. I think Conor Benn, stands a chance, especially if Terence Crawford beats Porter. Porter doesn't really have many other places to go except that Conor Benn fight.
Yeah, that would be a great fight. That would be tailor made to Conor Benn's skill. They would both fit very well with each other's skill set and styles. Like they both want to move forward and apply pressure on each other, and that would be an interesting scrap for sure. Somebody would get knocked out, I think, in that fight.
Yeah,
because those two, they both. Go ahead.
What about? I was going to ask you about Boots Ennis.
Boots Ennis is the truth. He just has a weak resume, and I just need the visuals are probably the best in the welterweight division as far as the new young talent. I put him above Virgil Ortiz visually, but he doesn't have. Virgil Ortiz has a better resume at the moment. Boots just doesn't have the resume yet to back up what we see visually. But damn, that man is talented. Oh, yeah, I like Boots. Boots is the future, assuming he keeps winning and he's not, just an optical illusion. And when boxing, I take into account what I see visually, and I also need to see that resume. I need to see something more than Sergey Lipnitz.
It's a good fight, a Sergey Lipnitz fight, but I think Boots needs a bit more exposure. I think the DAZN and Matchroom scene would be really good for someone like him. Boost his profile up. Get him in there with someone like Virgil Ortiz Jr. and then maybe even the Conor Benn fight one day. Those are some serious mega fights one day, I think.
I feel like Boots and Conor. I think it would be a mistake for Conor to fight someone like Boots, but like I said, Boots hasn't really fought anybody of significant consequence, so we don't know if it's just visuals. That's like Shakur Stevenson. Like, they haven't fought anyone significant, so up until now, I just see a beautiful stylistic fighter until they prove that they're really that person that we hope that they are. Oh, I hope that they are those people that we think they are, But I think Conor Benn should focus on. I think AB would be a great fight for him, to be honest. I think that's like the ideal fight. It'd be a high profile fight. It would get him a lot of interest and views from the American audiences, because anytime AB fights, we're all watching because we're just AB's a spectacle.
And what about the what's it called? Oh, Jamel Herring versus Shakur Stevenson fight.
I like Jamel Herring, Semper Fi. That guy, he managed to eke out wins. It's strange because when you see him visually in his style, like you're like, he doesn't. He has a mentality that he's gonna win, and he figures out a way to win. But I think if this is Shakur Stevenson's fight, I think he's gonna win by 12-round decision, and I think he's just gonna do everything slightly better than Jamel Herring will.
Yeah, I think a washed-up Carl Frampton isn't comparable to a young, hungry Shakur Stevenson.
Not at all. That was definitely probably Herring's best performance ever, but Frampton was a little bit over the hill. Mr. MTK Global.
I think that a Jamel Herring versus Josh Warrington fight could be really interesting because of the fact that Jamel Herring and Josh Warrington have both fought Carl Frampton and beat him. So I think that's a good fight to see the levels.
I want to see Warrington. And Laura play itself out first, and then maybe Warrington will do the thing with the Herring.
Yeah, I think it's weird that they haven't organized the third match for that. I think they're not. I don't know if Matchroom are so confident in Warrington anymore.
In just the short time they were in the ring in that fight, it still looked like it was Laura's fight. That's just. But what did we see? In a round or two, we didn't get to see much. So
yeah, I'm not going to judge because it was too short to judge. But I think the legs were pretty shaky from the jump. But I think he might have eased into the fight and got his groove a bit. But yeah, I'm not going to comment too much on that. I think they need to have the third one. And yeah, it was a very bizarre scenario, that whole thing.